welcome back to another video on my channel. I just want to start off this video by saying that I hope that you all are doing well, you're all staying healthy, and that you're not going stir crazy sitting in your homes. I've been sitting in my house now, I think this is day 10 or 11. I've only left to do grocery runs and take my dog for a walk. And I think I was okay with it until about yesterday when I started going absolutely stir crazy. So these videos are really helping me out because it feels like I'm having some kind of interaction with a group of people rather than just the people who live in my house. But with that all being said, I am back today with another fun type of video. This video was actually requested to me by my mom. She was watching I guess like a paranormal TV show, and that is when she heard about these creatures and she thought that they were really creepy and interesting, and so she suggested that I make a video on them. So here you go, Mom. Sorry that it's a little bit late, but it is here. So with that all being said, let's get right into today's video. This video is going to be a little bit of a shorter one, and I wasn't sure whether to consider this a cryptid or an urban legend or what exactly to call this. But today we're going to be talking about what is known as the Flying Witches of Monterrey. Now these creatures really started to gain attention in the 2000s, and they were first spotted in a place called Nuevo, Mexico. And that is when people started reporting seeing these strange flying, floating objects all over this area of Mexico. And I know what you guys are probably thinking, great, another alien or UFO video, but that is not the case. News of these creatures being spotted all over Mexico started to spread pretty quickly, and shortly after that, a UFO club came forward with a video that they had captured of what I'm going to describe as looking like a very dark, creepy, floating man. This man was floating over the tops of mountains in that area, and the way that he was floating was like he was going with the ridges of the mountain, if that makes sense. Like he was floating in a straight line, but he was going like his body was very stiff and he was going with the movements of the mountain. If I can find the clip of the video that won't get copyrighted, I will insert it here so you guys can see specifically what I am talking about. But it is very unsettling, and I believe that that was the first video of this creature that was ever caught. Now, you're going to notice in this specific video, I do talk about a lot of video clips that were captured of this creature, and I will talk a little bit more on what I think about those videos at the end, so just continue watching. Because this creature was allegedly caught on camera by that UFO club, a lot of newspapers started to report on this, and many news channels played the video and then would talk about it on the channel, giving this specific creature a lot of media attention. And that is when this creature was dubbed the Witch of Monterrey. And after that kind of went public and more people started to learn about this, more people started to come forward saying that they had first-hand encounters with what was now known as the Witch of Monterrey. So what makes this specific case so interesting is that two of the most famous reports of people who had encounters with these creatures came from two very reputable people. Both of the people who made these most famous reports and had these encounters with these creatures were actually police officers. So the first one that I'm going to talk about was by an officer who was living and patrolling in Santa Catarina, and he was kind of standing back on a balcony or something along those lines looking over, and just a few yards away he could see a cemetery. And he said very, very visibly in his sight there were two what he described as looking like your stereotypical witches flying over top of the cemetery. He said that they had on long cloaks, pointy hats. It appears as if they were floating on broomsticks, and that you could visibly tell that these two creatures were female. He also said that they appeared as if they were covered in bird's feathers. Now again, the man who made this report was said to be very credible. He was a police officer and was generally somebody who could be trusted and who wasn't known for lying. So people took this report very, very seriously. But even stranger is, just like I mentioned, after that, another member of authority, another police officer, came forward having a very similar incident. Now, this police officer was actually from a completely different district, and his encounter with these creatures was much more physical and, in my opinion, much more terrifying. This report came in from a man by the name of Leonardo Samanigo, and he was working in Guadalupe, Mexico. He was driving around in his parole vehicle while on duty when all of a sudden he heard something drop onto the roof of his car. He was driving underneath a tree and had assumed that whatever it was had fallen from the tree onto his vehicle. But that is when he was startled because whatever it was that was on the roof of his vehicle now crawled onto the hood and was standing face to face with him. That is when he could make out that this was one of those creatures that had been reported so often recently in the news. He said that you could tell that this was a witch and that it had all of the traits of your average female, but that her skin was very, very dark and she had extremely large eyes. He also said, like in similar reports, that this creature or this woman was wearing a long black cape. He said after he noticed that this was what was on the front of his car, he was absolutely stunned, just like I think anybody would be, and he didn't know what to do. But just then the creature kind of came closer to the window and began to tap on the windshield. After this, the officer passed out and he doesn't remember anything, but he woke up several minutes to an hour later and he was still in his parole vehicle, but his clothes were visibly disheveled as if somebody had tussled him around a little bit, but he had no recollection of what happened and the creature was now gone. After coming to, he wasn't really sure what exactly he was supposed to do at that time, so he called for backup, and eventually news of what he had reported got down to some TV crews. So TV crews also showed up at the scene, and there's an interview of this officer on the internet that you can find, and in this interview he is visibly shaken up. Again, I will try and insert that video in here as well, but for copyright purposes we'll just see how that plays out. But again, you can tell in this interview that whatever he had just seen had him visibly scared. Later on that year in July, a man came forward claiming to have had a similar incident, except this time he said that whatever this creature was to him did not resemble a female and that it actually looked like a large man. Now, from the videos that I have seen online and the videos that I'm probably going to insert here because they were the videos that I already watched, I thought that this creature or these creatures resembled that of men as well. Large, very creepy men. But anyways, this man allegedly also caught his experience on video, and I personally have not seen this video, but allegedly the man or this creature is descending from the sky and then it kind of floats and disappears behind a hill. And this took place in Tepoztlán. And I also just want to apologize right now for my pronunciation. All of these places obviously are in Mexico, so the names are Spanish, and I have trouble saying English words, so Spanish definitely is difficult for me. This next incident that I'm going to share with you, or this next sighting, in my opinion, is the creepiest of them all. So two pilots, a pilot and his co-pilot, were getting ready to land a plane in Mexico City. They were in the process of doing so when all of a sudden they spotted what they described as a very small man floating beside the plane. Now, if this wasn't creepy enough, this little small creature that looked like a tiny man to them was keeping up with not only the plane's altitude, but also the speed of the plane. Before whatever this being was floated off, both the pilot and the co-pilot were able to get a good look at this thing, and they said it definitely, again, looked like a very small man, and it appeared as if this tiny man was wearing a backpack. And then just as quickly as they noticed that it was floating beside the plane, they got a good look at it, and then it kind of floated off. Now both the co-pilot as well as the pilot himself got a good look at this, again like I said, and they came down and reported this, but they would have no reason to lie about something like this. They were both trained in air phenomenon, so they would know if it was a bird or something like that. And they were trained airline professionals, so there was no reason for them to have lied about anything like this, and both of them confirmed that they had seen this. So it wasn't just one saying they had seen it and the other one being like, no, it was something else. They both confirmed to have seen it together. Now, I'm not sure if any of the other passengers on the plane did see this creature, but again, the two pilots did see it. What I think was particularly interesting about these creatures is that when they were first being reported as being seen, they were predominantly being reported as being female, but as time went on, people started to report seeing these creatures and that they were men. I also think that it's interesting that some of them were much larger than the other and that they resembled that of humans. Now, obviously, most creatures have male and female, but I just think that it's pretty interesting that these specific creatures do resemble that of either a female human or a male human and maybe a child, or, you know, they come in different sizes, I guess. I just thought that was particularly interesting about these creatures. So the next incident that I'm going to share with you, or the next sighting that I'm going to share with you, we're kind of jumping back a little bit because this one was reported as being seen on Valentine's Day in 2004. Now, this specific encounter is a little bit different than the other ones, but once I share it with you, you're going to see why some people believe that this incident could be connected to the other reported sightings of these creatures. So this specific incident was witnessed by 3 people, and they were also in Mexico City. So these 3 people who witnessed whatever this was said that they at first noticed in the sky what appeared to be a very large mechanical looking object, and that dangling under this very large mechanical looking object appeared to be a large but very dark humanoid-like figure. I feel like I'm going to have a hard time explaining this, but this is one of the most famous incidences to have ever taken place and one of the most strange, I guess, like phenomenons that were ever spotted in Mexico City. So they said that they saw this large mechanical looking thing, and underneath it there appeared to be a humanoid floating underneath it, and all of a sudden the two just separated. So the humanoid was no longer underneath the large mechanical looking creature. So they were kind of flying beside each other when all of a sudden a second but much smaller humanoid came off of the top of the mechanical looking creature, and they were now all flying or floating, I guess, near each other. Now, to me, that kind of makes me think that there must be like a whole community of these witch-like creatures living somewhere around Mexico, because again, these creatures are only spotted in Mexico. But anyways, that happened, and then they kind of all got back together and they made what looked like one large object. So there was 3, there was 2, there was 3, and then there was 1. So it was like this big mechanical object was kind of carrying them, I guess. And that is one of the most famous incidences. I feel like I'm not explaining that very good, but I hope that it kind of gets it across to you guys what exactly these people were looking at. So again, because all of these reports take place around Mexico, specifically Mexico City, it does say to me, or suggest to me, that there might be an entire community of these creatures living somewhere around there. They look like humans, maybe they sound like humans. There's a very weird thing, like maybe there's just like this whole entire species of humans who can fly, and they're just like us, but they can fly. And some of them are very large. I don't know, these ones just really trip me out, and a lot of the specific incidences that were reported on these specific witches take place in Mexico again, and a lot of them are filmed or photographed. Now, I personally am very skeptical of anything that is filmed or photographed. I mean, sometimes you come across things online that look real, but a lot of the pictures of these witches of Monterrey do look photoshopped or heavily edited, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean that I don't believe in them. I think that a lot of these reports are probably sincere. I just don't necessarily believe in all of the ones that were caught on camera and taken photos of, but I do think that it is very, very possible that these creatures do exist and are living somewhere around Mexico, and that people probably see them all the time. I think that the most recent famous reported sighting of these creatures was in 2013 when somebody claimed to have again caught footage of one of these flying over Mexico City. But guys, that brings us to the end of this video. I just want to apologize because this video has been quite short, but there will be probably another video on Wednesday, and there will definitely be a longer video on Friday, so keep your eyes open for that. Anyways, if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to comment down below what you'd like to see in my future videos and what you think of the Witches of Monterrey. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos from me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys are staying safe in this very weird time, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!